welcome to Circle City Conversations. Thank you for joining me for my conversation today. Thank you to our sponsor, Hearst Lamontes, an Indiana law firm representing injured Hoosiers. We launched episode 1 a few months ago, and since then we've had some great guests and a lot of support, and I just want to thank everyone. I'm excited today to introduce my infamous guest. Infamous, yes. Partner at Hoover Hole, husband and father, nationally recognized speaker, world traveler, member of the Metamucil Society.
I am. Very proud member and founding member of that.
Probably the most ethical person that I know.
Try to be. Everybody who says they're ethical, everybody says I'm a great Christian. So why do you have to tell me? Why can't you just show me? So I try to be ethical, yes. And know what I'm talking about when we talk ethics. Keep going. I'd like to hear more of my resume.
Lawyer to most lawyers that I know.
Well, there's a lot of them. When I used to go to the market, it'd be like, he owes me money. He owes me.
The one and only James Bell. James, thanks. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. How did you get Hearst Lamontes to sponsor you? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they are. They're
a great firm.
They really, it was between them and Coca-Cola Classic, and Pepsi was
the blue chip.
Yeah, really, all of them. And I think Acura threw it in there too, but we really got the best sponsor there.
You bring that up. Like, I go to the Colts games and I look up the scoreboard and it is Coca-Cola, Fortune 500, I assume, Lilly. Yep. And then there are 2 personal injury firms up there. Yeah. And then I think Faegre Drinker, and every time I see a sponsorship, I take a picture, send to my Faegre friends. I'm like, thank you for those billable hours. Give me a cup holder or whatever. So.
Yeah. And those 2 firms, it's Wagner Reese and Bill Winningham. Yeah. And Winningham Keogh. Great law firms.
And also went to the Indy 11 soccer game, and every corner kick was the Wilson Kehoe Winningham.
Was it?
I study advertising, and you plaintiffs lawyers have the best advertising by far.
We have to, right?
Well, you're direct to customer, I guess.
Exactly. When you're B2C type business, it's just all about, and frankly, it's about being at the right spot at the right time, being top of mind if someone gets into a car accident. Something.
Sure.
So James, we start easy around here.
Okay.
Usually. So where are you from originally?
My parents are Irish immigrants. I was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I don't remember it, although I did go back 10 years ago or so and spent 2 days in Saskatchewan. And it's a little bit like spending 2 days in Fort Wayne. It's like after a morning, my dad and I want to hit the dog track, So from Saskatchewan, Canada, I moved to Baltimore for a year. My dad worked as a physician in town, and then we went back to Canada, Georgetown, Ontario, just outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
Then we moved to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, famous for the flood.
Oh, yeah.
As well as the movie Slapshot. And my dad was the team doctor for the hockey team. That was the coolest thing. At least my brother and I thought that was pretty cool. And then we moved to Birmingham, Alabama. I say I grew up in Birmingham, but I'm turning 50 on Friday, and I only lived there for 12 years. But I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Roll Tide, beat Michigan.
Roll Tide. Where'd you go to high school at down there?
Indian Springs School. Have you heard of it?
No.
Have you ever heard of John Green, the famous author who lives in Indianapolis? He's an Indian Springs alum. The guy that wrote Austin Powers with Mike Myers was from there. The director of Saturday Night Fever. Yeah. So I'm the dumbest person that ever went to my high school. But I went to Indian Springs High School. That's what it's called.
And you said you were turning 50 here very soon, right?
Yeah, 2 days.
In 2 days. Tell me what that is like.
Well, my back hurts. And that's one thing I remember from my 40th birthday. I remember my back not hurting. I think that would have stood out to me. I had my last doctor's appointment in my 40s, and it was all, okay, we got to do a heart scan. We got to do PSA. And so death is real. Yeah. It's not like on your doorstep, although I guess I could get hit by a bus which you might like, because maybe it's a case for you. But yeah, it's like we gotta dabble with death here. We gotta wrestle, and usually we win, or usually death isn't there, but we gotta be on the lookout for death. So anybody in their 70s is probably upset hearing me say that, but I was kind of shocked that it wasn't like everything's fine. Everything's fine. So yeah, and then I've been a lawyer now 25 years, or 24 and a half or so. You wonder about what the hell am I doing? So yeah.
So what are some of the things, what are some of the reminders, let's say, that you get maybe at work on a daily basis, or even with kids, that you are getting old?
When you work out in the morning, because you're, that's supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah.
You step up, you stand up from the desk, and you could feel all the soreness in your body. That's the main thing, I think. That is my reminder. I just feel like I'm more tired and don't recover very well.
Exactly.
But that may be just I'm out of shape, So, but it's hard to get in shape when your back keeps going out. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So near Christmas birthday.
Just like you.
Yeah, just like me. That's one thing. We actually have quite a few things in common. We were public defenders.
We were public defenders.
We were public defenders. We are both trial lawyers.
Yes, not as much as I used to be.
We are both extremely ethical.
Extremely good looking.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent taste.
Excellent taste and everything.
And everything.
Yeah.
and near Christmas birthdays.
Near Christmas birthdays. I hated the Christmas birthday as a kid. You got a lot of dual gifts. It was always an afterthought, like, we got to, As an adult, it got better. Especially in your 20s or 30s. So, my birthday this year will be the Friday before Christmas. Mm-hmm. Everybody, as lawyers, we all have a deal that we don't bug each other Thanksgiving or Christmas. So that's when I think the one time we relax. So I've had a few really fun birthdays where I might have left my car downtown and got a cab home because my birthday was on a day that everybody else was ready to have a little fun too. So as an adult, it's not that bad. Yeah. But as a kid, you had to wait the whole year, right? For your birthday and Santa.
Right. It's tough. Mine's on December 24th. It's tough to share a birthday with Jesus. With Jesus.
Not quite, but yes, almost. Yeah.
It's actually my middle name. So
is that why?
Yeah. That's why my parents gave me that as my middle name, because I was born on December 24th.
And you pronounce it
Jesus. But to all the English speakers, you can say Jesus. That's
Jesus.
fine.
I'll call you Jesus.
Yeah. So, and then did you ever get the, I call it the spare gift. There's always something that someone has kind of lying around their house, maybe they got as a white elephant gift or something. They never really opened it or used it because it really had no use. Did you ever get the spare gift? Oh, yeah, it's your birthday. Oh, here.
I wasn't smart enough to figure that out. I'm sure I did. And I'm sure I've given a few of those as well. Hopefully I didn't get caught.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about you being a lawyer. You were at DePaul Tigers.
Yes.
Okay. Who won the Bell game this year?
DePaul did, and I know that because my cell phone wasn't blown up by Wabash. All my quote friends from Wabash didn't reach out to me that day. Yeah. They seem to take it a little more seriously than DePaul people do, or at least more personally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's beautiful out there, by the way, at Greencastle.
It is, in the fall especially.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a place out there.
Yeah, and I actually think Wabash has a nice campus as well. It's nice out there.
It is, yeah. So I'm guessing at some point in DePaul you said to yourself, I want to be a lawyer.
Or I ought to try law school. It was more like it. Yeah.
So what was that thought process?
Well,
like?
I went and I showed up at DePaul in order to be a doctor. And, there's a few things that I failed. Now, I did pass my heart scan. I got a perfect score last week. I'm very proud of that. But, during the course of my life.
How does that happen? How do you get a perfect score?
A 0 is a perfect score. So, my Blutarsky 0.0. And I've always been told I have a big heart. Apparently, scientifically, I do not. It's a normal size heart. So, but I did repeat a lot of things, like geometry. I had to take twice. I liked it so much. I took twice, Latin too. I almost had to take chemistry twice. But I withdrew, and I realized that science and math was not going to be my thing. And so my dad pushed me to go to law school, and I have to say the first semester I was kind of like, offer consideration. Tell me what exactly. And then I took criminal law and from Professor Stroud. Are you a McKinney person?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you would have had Professor Stroud. He was a former U.S. attorney. And he divided the classroom and said, you're the defense lawyer, you're the prosecutor, and you had to do the argument on both sides. And it was the first time I actually saw, this is how I use this for a client. Like he was a U.S. attorney, and he had been in an accident. And I assume he was in a wheelchair, and I assume that led him to academia. But he was very practical in his approach. And he was a great teacher, but you had to argue both sides. Like, so one half of the room would argue the state's position, one half would argue the defense position. That was the first time, I didn't feel like we're talking about why do we have the law this way? Do we like it? And so criminal law made sense to me. A lot of the big cases, I think, still are criminal cases. I think the most interesting area of law. And if you watch the first 10 minutes of every newscast, I'd say at least 50% is going to be who was indicted that day, who was sentenced that day. And then I took criminal procedure, and these are things I did well in too, and I think it was because I was interested. And I took criminal procedure, did very well in that. And I love just the idea that, our society was prepared to say, if it wasn't beyond a reason, if we weren't sure, we weren't going to put someone in prison, and that it was sort of built around that. I was like, this speaks to me somehow. Yeah. Did the criminal defense clinic, I think 3 times with Lynn McDowell and Fran Hardy at the time, Fran Watson. And I just really liked it. I was sort of like, okay, this is what I think I was meant to do. Yeah. And I started working at Kiefer McGough. And I remember the first week I was there, Dick Kiefer tried a reckless homicide case in front of then state court judge Tanya Walton Pratt. Reckless homicide, innocent client, he paid a whopping, like I couldn't, but this was an insane amount. I think like $40,000 or something. It was so insane, the amount of money, and it was a week-long trial, and Dick's life had been threatened by the victim's family. And for some reason I was thinking, wow, this is cool. Yeah. I think I needed drama in my life. But he went, I watched part of the trial as a law student and cut over to the city county building. And when he was giving his closing, I think I did hear the national anthem in the back. I saw flags. He really did deliver an excellent closing argument. And when he sat down, I was like, this guy's not guilty. He spoke for like an hour, and it felt like 10 minutes. He was just methodical, and it was a not guilty. And then the guy was a bar owner, and so he had the whole defense team over to the bar afterwards. And when we all walked in, but it was they all stood up and applauded. Oh. So the lesson I got was your client was always innocent, your client always paid, and your client was always grateful. And you always got a great result. So that week ruined my life. And I became a criminal defense lawyer. I spent a year at Kiefer McGough. I actually was second chair on a murder case twice. We did some other, probably like 4 or 5 jury trials that year, which I don't know how many firms do that. Private firms do that anymore in criminal matters. But excuse me. I remember just thinking as I'm sitting there in this murder case in Henry County saying, I want to be lead count. I want to be doing the closing argument. And so I went to the public defender for a few years. You did. We got our baptism by fire there, and drank from the fire hose and all the rest.
What court were you assigned to first?
Court 19.
Me too. Becky Pearson,
Tracy. Taylor Baker had just left.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories that came out of that courtroom,
Oh, yeah.
I really wish I'd kept a diary. And,
Mhm.
I guess probably would have been confidential. But,
Yeah, right.
if you make a gazillion, who cares? See, I'm kidding. But, the stories of like Taylor Baker not allowing the prisoners to use the bathroom and they would just use the bathroom in the middle of the court,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
These stories just every day happen. Now, Judge Pearson Tracy, the stories weren't quite as nuts,
No.
but the clients were.
Yes.
And it was about her second month. And I really enjoyed being in there. Mark Hamish was my court partner.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to think who else. Israel Cruz was the commissioner. Mary Russell was the prosecutor. I mean, we all had this little, we'd go out for drinks and everything. I was only in there 3 months. It seems like I was in there forever. And, just understanding how to get somebody out of jail and, checking their holds here and their holds there on their probation. Just like the first week, I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
You didn't know how to remember justice or
Oh, yeah.
the dossiest DOS system on the face of the plate. But once you learned how to use that, you be prepared. And then after that, after 3 months, I was in court 15 with Judge Good. Now, would he have been around for you? Because he was a great I didn't understand. I mean, I thought he was a good judge.
Right.
He was a great judge, and we were really spoiled. I probably was in there 12, 13 months, and then went to court 6, where Jane Magnus Stinson was the judge, and that was an awakening. I mean, going from doing D felonies and probation to watching your client go behind bars for 65, 70 years, the amount of blood and guts that you see in the photographs, or you probably see those all the time. But I just remember, like, I wasn't young anymore. The innocence was gone. The humor was out of it. There was something about doing misdemeanor and D felony work that, there were no one was really hurt, and there were no major consequences to people that generally had criminal histories already. And if they got convicted, got probation, it wasn't the end of the world for them. It was, I hate to say that's low consequence, but.
But it is. I mean,
relatively speaking, it was. And then, major felony is just a different story altogether.
Absolutely.
So, were you ever a major felony?
I told you I was talking to Chris Eskew earlier, and Chris and I were at the agency, and I had a chance to work on with Jane Rumley. And then that day, I talked to the client. It was a child molest case. And then that day, actually, and Jane is a great lawyer.
Yeah.
I just knew that I couldn't do it anymore.
It was a domestic violence case that sent me over.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
The edge. It was a brutal domestic violence, and I really shouldn't get into the details, but it ceased being fun. It ceased being like, there were just certain cases. And, it's weird to say, even, you often could find your client's story or the mitigator or, reason to fight for your client. But, that there was just, you had that one case. It was like, I'm not feeling that I'm doing the right thing.
Right. I realized I couldn't be the best lawyer.
Yeah. I think I did my best and everything, but I do remember thinking this is, for whatever reason, just, if I have to do this kind of case often, it's going to be too much for me.
So eventually you transitioned from the public defender agency back into private practice.
Yeah. When I had sort of left my foot somewhat in the door at Kiefer McGough, and, he said, hey, if ever I want to come back, would you take me? And they said, we'll see. And so I asked, and they said, yes.
Yes.
So I went back, and that was about 2.5 years. We're up at Keystone the Crossing, some really big, great cases. And then they merged with Bingham. So then for 10 years, I was either at Bingham McHale or Bingham Greenbaum Dolan. I often get made fun of for changing firms so often, but I just want to say that Kiefer McGough bookended the public defender. And then I think in my view, for 10 more years, it was still a formation. It was Kiefer McGough. And then, yes, I have in recent past danced around a little. So went to Paganelli after that. for 7 years, and now I've been at Hoover Hall for one.
Yeah,
So.
and I know John Hoover. I serve on.
Yeah, the Indiana Health.
Yes,
Yes.
the rehab hospital.
Rehab hospital.
Yeah. So great guy, excellent restaurants.
Yes.
Yes.
I assume he owns those as well.
Yeah.
Why I don't know that he cooks at all.
Right. Yeah. So, so I talked about we talked about your speaking engagement. You are a renowned speaker.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes,
Good to hear.
So, so why do you talk so much?
People ask me. And I try to not say no to people unless I have a good reason. So. I enjoy it. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy public speaking when nobody's going to go to jail or have a urine screen or a drug test. Right. And, it's pretty consequence free. My dad did a lot of this. He's a doctor, but he would speak. I watched him speak a lot because, I get invited to these dinners or whatever, but he would speak on medical issues, and he was hilarious. I mean, everybody said, well, he is hilarious. And so I sort of adopted that style, just like, let's try to find a way to make this interesting. Let's try to find a way to get funny. And so I do my best. Sometimes you could just see the joke fail. Sometimes it fails when it's worked 10 times. Sometimes the room's just not very hot. But I think people need ethics credit, and that's what I speak about. And generally, I could probably stand up for 3 hours and talk off the top of my head about ethics. I taught the law school course for 5 semesters, which means, I think 26 hours I spoke on my feet about ethics. So I feel like, I can chat and I enjoy it. And oftentimes it's my friend asking me to do it.
Right.
I feel shouldn't let my friends down. No. So, and sometimes those people become clients as well, and I have to make a living. So, yeah.
Well, and that was actually going to be my next question. Have you seen that maybe help your practice?
Yeah, I think, McGough was the one that taught me how to do the disciplinary work. Okay. And he was a former staff lawyer at the disciplinary commission. And, I was at Kiefer McGough trying to just be a criminal defense lawyer, and it was sort of like, oh, I guess you got to do this work as well. Yeah. But he taught me how to do it. And when he was IndyBar president in 2007, I think. Yep. And he was really busy, and he just kept, hey, can you do this seminar for me? I signed up, but I can't do it. Can you do it? I started learning it, and then I started getting a name for myself because I spoke at seminars, not because I knew what the hell I was doing. And then Kevin's retired, and Don Lundberg does a lot of this. He's going to retire very shortly. And so, that's seminars, giving seminars is interesting because you learn. Yeah. But learn what you're presenting better than you would if you were listening, I think. And so I got to know the material, and I was often speaking with, Chuck Kidd or Seth Pruden or somebody from the discipline, like my opposing counsel, got to know them too. Yeah. Which meant, if you had a case with them, you usually picked up the phone and cut to the chase pretty quickly. And you had a good working relationship, and you'd figure out quickly what you agreed and disagreed on, and went from there. So, yeah, I mean, if only I could get paid for that. If you know how to get paid to give those CLE, I'll just do that. So
I was actually at a webinar that you recently spoke at, and I texted you in the middle of it because you referenced OP.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Well, yeah. There's a new rule that talks about what you do with OPP. If you can't find your client and the money's in the trust account, and so how old are you?
42.
42. Okay, so I'm trying to remember. That's naughty by nature,
right?
They
came to Hanover.
They did.
Yeah, they came to Hanover in 2002, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, is that a 2002 band, or they're a 90s band?
They were from the 90s. That's why they were. They were
on the way down. They were on the way. Yeah, that's like the Village People came to DePaul in 1992. So OPP. You throw it up there and just see. Right. You'll see like 3 people laugh, and then some people not in our generation. Right. I don't know if you're in my generation or not, but like, what are they laughing at? I don't. I also do like there's a rule. The conflict of interest rule about sexual relations with you. And I used to do that, and I'd shake my finger and go, the 1.8J says sexual, you shall not have sexual relations with our client, And I get nice laughs from that. Yeah. And now when I taught it at law school, like, you saw them looking at each other, like, is he okay?
Right.
Is he sick? What just happened to his voice? They have no idea that that was the most famous statement ever made by a president. Like, at least that's what you remember about the Clinton presidency.
Right.
Not peace and prosperity, not pre 9/11. You remember, I did not have sexual relations. Even presidents have private lives. Oh God, it was so much easier when that was the headline.
Right.
It felt like the 90s, and maybe I was in a bubble or something, and really studying for law school or something more. But it just felt like everything was coming together.
Yeah.
And 9/11 changed that pretty quickly. Financial crisis made it worse. And here we are. I often think about, and this has nothing to do with your question, but I often think about Bush v. Gore.
Yes.
And how basically, like, Al Gore barely won the popular vote and W barely won the Electoral College. I think that's pretty, and we had to have the U.S. Supreme Court settle that election. And I don't know the timing, but, for weeks we didn't know who the president was, maybe even into December of 2000. And I remember when that order came out, we didn't go storm the Capitol.
Right.
We shrugged our shoulders. If you wanted Al Gore to win, you're like, bummer, and moved on. And then if you wanted W, you're like, yeah, okay, great. We watched a lot of Jon Stewart. That's how Jon Stewart got his beginning. I mean, that's what we did. We didn't go nuts.
Right.
And so I think we're in a different spot, which has nothing to do with whatever you asked me. But these are my thoughts. I think you were asking about CLEs.
No. It was, it's a great conversation.
Yeah.
We were talking about seminars, and as far as you do a lot of work, ethics work. You are a lawyer.
That's what that's a lot of what I do, or a judge's lawyer sometimes.
So, and I mean, I can tell you as someone who runs a law firm, things come up and they happen.
Yeah. And
then I text James.
Yes. And I give you an answer, whether it's a good one or not. I don't know.
So, I mean, as far as the difference between representing lawyers versus representing criminals,
or sometimes it's the same.
No. Is there a difference?
Well, I think it's really, I would say a lot of the staff lawyers over the disciplinary commission are former prosecutors. Some of them are former public defenders. But it is a rule. Did you violate it? And if you violated it, what's your sanction? And that's a lot of what criminal defense lawyers do. Okay. Sometimes there's some lawyers over at the disciplinary commission do a lot more formal discovery than I'm used to. But to me, a criminal defense, Adrienne Meyering, the head of the commission, is a former sex crimes prosecutor in Judge Magna Stinson's court. She was there when I was there. But it is criminal-ish in that it's hard to sort of split the baby, like, hey, I want $1 million in your life. I want $1 million. We'll give you 800, and maybe you meet in the middle, or if not, you try the case. It's like, well, I'm going to publicly file on this person, and nobody at the commission says this, but certainly it's embarrassing. It hurts your reputation. It's hard to meet in the middle on that. It's yes or no, and then what sort of sanction you get after that happens is a lot like criminal law, I think. There's no jury trial. And you try to maintain your relationships with people that work over there. I don't know. Chris Eskew, I'm sure, would be good at this, right? So
how many times do you end up writing a letter to the discipline on a monthly basis?
Like a grievance response?
Yeah.
This is a guess, but I'd say 3 times. Yeah. 3 times a month, I would think. I mean, I could probably go back and count, but that seems about right. They get a lot of grievances, and they do forward them on. A lot of people need or want help.
I want to change gears a little bit. You have a podcast as well.
It's a dead. It's a dormant.
Dormant. It's asleep.
It's asleep. It fell asleep during COVID and never woke up. It was a COVID casualty.
Off the record, right?
That's what it was called. Yeah, we may start it up again after this. See how we do here,
right?
And it'll have a different name. Somebody else has started using that.
Yeah,
name.
I saw that.
Not that it was a unique name or anything, but
right. So here's something I ask myself all the time. So why did you start that podcast?
That was, I know why I did it, because I was interested in whatever topic I talked about. I tended to bring lawyers on that had done big cases and try to get them to talk about their big cases. And I was genuinely interested, and the bar was interested in having that. Yeah. And it was a way to promote members. And I did find that it was pretty hard to get lawyers to talk about their cases. And honestly, they really shouldn't be talking about their cases in great detail anyway. Right. And so, and it was hard to get a hold of lawyers. You probably found that, like people put you off for a while. And it got to be a lot of work and less fun when COVID came around, and then people weren't driving their cars. So our downloads went, from, this seems worthwhile. I mean, I wasn't, there wasn't a billion listeners a day or anything, but there was enough to keep you going. And then it really, I know somebody in radio, and they said their radio, like nobody was listening to them on the radio, but their YouTube downloads were through the roof. Like people were sitting at home and, but I don't think people were listening to the podcast over COVID, I guess, because they're not driving their car, or maybe they got tired of me. Right. So,
what was your favorite episode?
I did an episode. I would say it is maybe our 13th, 14th episode. I did this person came on twice, but it was in February 2020, right before we shut down. It was the last in-person podcast we did. It was Tom Chiarella, who's a writer for Esquire. And he had just followed Alan Dershowitz around while he represented Trump in the impeachment. And I also got him to talk about, meeting Morgan Freeman and Liam Neeson and just a bunch of the other people he had interviewed. Yeah. And I've been friends with Tom forever, and he was my professor at DePaul. And, I've always looked up to him. I thought it was great, and a lot of my DePaul friends, saw that and listened to it and loved it too. So that was probably the most fulfilling. But he's a journalist. Yeah, he's not. He actually likes to expose facts and expose. Right. And I started thinking, well, maybe I've been going about this all wrong, trying to talk to the lawyers about their case. I should be talking to journalists or professors or people that are paid to expose what's there instead of, duty bound to, keep most of it to yourself and only talk about a little bit else. And then, that was my favorite. And he was ready to talk too. Yeah. So he's recently, I've seen on social media, he's writing for the AARP magazine, speaking of getting older. Yeah, I think I qualify in 2 days.
You might.
I got an envelope from them that I haven't opened, but like Helen Mirren, am I pronouncing her? Mirren. Yes. I knew I was Henry Winkler, like he just interviewed the Fonz.
That's cool.
But I bet that magazine has a better reading or a better circulation than maybe like Rolling Stone does now, right. But that people get it with their membership, and probably that generation reads it. So I haven't talked to him in a while, but that was my favorite one. Yeah. And Monica Foster, she did the first one, and I was fascinated by some of her death penalty cases. Yeah. Rick Hammond did too with me about his Guantanamo Bay cases. Those were great. I mean, they were all great. Yeah. There were a couple I threw in the trash There's, I won't name the person, but the judge was very, just guarded. And we both agreed, just let's not use this. Right. But if they were published, I was proud of it to a certain degree. I mean, even just as I'm thinking about Dean Klein, just talking about running a law school. Yeah. And I have a lot in common with him because he lived in Birmingham for a while. His kids went to my elementary school, and he was a great guy. And I like teaching at the law school. And I'm you could hear in that podcast, I'm searching for a job, and he's like, no, adjunct's good for you. Right. It's sort of like Caddyshack, like with Carl, the pond's good for you. No, being an adjunct's good enough. Yeah, it's fine. And he was, 4.0 everywhere he went, and clerk for some fancy judge. The resume I don't have, the exact resume I don't have.
Right. Well, that's another thing we haven't. And I also I don't have those fancy Latin terms next to my.
I don't either.
My name.
Yeah. Yeah. So you seem to be doing fine. I've toured your office. You have a lot of real estate here. You have time to podcast.
I do have some time.
Yeah.
Sometime.
3.
3?
Yeah. You have 2?
4.
4. Geez. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to brag about how much
Yours are younger. Mine are younger. You
15, 13, and 9.
10, 7, and 2.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I'm tired.
You're very tired. And you are getting bolder every time I see you.
Absolutely.
And so am I.
Yeah, I am. But that we were talking about getting old, right? It's funny. We had our holiday party. You see Emmanuel sitting behind me. We had our holiday party yesterday. Someone got a Willie Nelson Chia Pet. Willie Nelson.
Oh my God. What's wrong with you?
Hey, listen, to be fair, I saw the I was like, who's that?
Willie Nelson.
I thought everybody knew who Willie Nelson was. That's unbelievable. Do you know who Elvis Presley is? Okay. Do you know who Mick Jagger is? You really don't know. You couldn't tell me what band Mick Jagger's in. Oh, gee, you got to educate these people.
Happy birthday, James. Happy birthday. I know. We had one younger girl working up front several months ago, and you see this?
It's a tape. She had no idea what a tape was.
She didn't know what it was.
You are holding, for the record, you are holding a cassette tape, a Maxell UR.
And my partner, Bill, who's been around quite a while, still uses those and dictates on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an old dictation machine.
I enjoyed dictating.
Yeah. So, but, all right. So we are getting older.
We are going. I mean, none of these names may mean anything to anybody, but Mark Rothenberg and I, at one point in our lives, we were young. And he was the court 18 prosecutor, and I was 15. His wife was the prosecutor in 15 as well. And we all hung out. And he said, yeah, we are now Alan Ladd, and Alan Ladd is now Manny Bell. And if you're around the city county building at that time, you would know exactly what that meant. But Manny Bell was no relationship to me, but he was sort of an icon, and he didn't have an office, which is hilarious now that we make fun of people that didn't have an office.
Right. And
he would just stand outside the court. Hey, do you need a lawyer? Do you need a lawyer?
Gosh.
Do you need a lawyer? And sort of,
funny.
We called it trolling for clients.
Trolling for clients.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So Alan, if you're listening, sorry I called you Manny Bell, but that was Rothenberg. Judge Rothenberg, excuse me.
That's funny. So you've traveled many places.
I've
countries.
Sort of. I would bet that I've been out of the country as many times as most people, but I've been to one place.
Oh, really?
I've been to Ireland.
You just go back.
I have family still there, and that's where I go. I only have so many European trips in my budget and in my schedule, and I choose to go there. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, because I'm driving down to Florida. And we drive through Birmingham.
Roll Tide, yeah.
Yeah. Alexander Shannara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
call me Alabama.
Yeah, call me Alabama. Everybody jokes that, that's a joke. Like I listened to Andy Kennedy, who's the UAB basketball coach, and whenever a lawyer comes up, he goes, I'm going to call Alexander Shannara.
Yeah.
Call me Alabama. And everybody laughs. It would be like, you could think of our iconic advertisers around here.
Just that easy.
It's just that easy. If you go downtown Birmingham, not only do you pass literally from the border to Birmingham for about 100 miles, you will pass, and I'm not lying, 80 billboards with Shannara on there. It would be like the Salesforce Tower having a billboard for, named personal injury lawyer, but his billboard is on top of one of the tallest buildings in Birmingham.
I saw it when we were driving.
I mean, it's wow.
Yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, but those people become the icons now. Like, I think when people say, when I was becoming a lawyer, if you said, who are the famous lawyers, you would say Johnny Cochran, F. Lee Bailey, criminal defense lawyers. And the movies in the 90s were Matthew McConaughey and A Time to Kill, My Cousin Vinny, A Few Good Men, Tom Cruise and Kevin Bacon and others. And now I do think the lawyers people know are the advertising lawyers. So
they're everywhere. Yeah. So is Buc-ee's worth the stop?
Buc-ee's is worth the stop. I was blown away, not only by their by how big it is, but how efficient.
Really?
Yeah, in and out. Like, I was sitting there, like, there might be 100 people trying to get gas, and it was just as fast as stopping anywhere else. And the food is actually good. I never thought I'd eat brisket or anything cooked at a gas station before. And I posted on Facebook about how impressed I was with Buc-ee's, and somebody said on the way home, you got to get a breakfast burrito, and it was delicious.
Well, I'm going to have to swing by there on the drive down.
Yeah, Athens, it's like exit 354-ish, like it may be 15 minutes into Alabama.
Yeah.
So where are you going?
We are going to Fort Walton Beach. We started. I'm from Florida originally, but from Cocoa Beach area, East Coast.
Okay.
East of Orlando, and I never really went to the Panhandle until recently. The kids, 11-hour drive, 12-hour drive is great, and we
really. I was waiting for you to say as hell.
Well, better than my hometown is 15 and a half.
Oh, sure.
So best restaurant in Birmingham, India.
Birmingham, Alabama. Well, if you look at the Beard, is it called the Beard Awards? Like, are you a foodie at all?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a restaurant called the Highland Bar and Grill that wins second or first best restaurant in the country.
Yes.
Every year. It's a fancy restaurant. I've only been there twice. I like Dreamland Barbecue. Mm-hmm. It's just off of I-65. If you like ribs. Yeah. That's the place I often look forward to when I go back. We'll have Dreamland Barbecue.
What about in Indianapolis, best restaurant?
Do we have a good? Well, I have to say all the Patachou restaurants.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Good answer.
So, but that actually is where I usually end up taking somebody when they're in town.
Right.
Go to Cafe Patachou.
They are. Yeah.
What do you think is?
And I ask people this question. I would have to probably classic or something.
Yeah, sure.
I just love an Ocean Air too.
I passed by there on the way down here, and I looked in, and I ate there. It seems like it's been open a while, like 10 years maybe. But when it first opened, I would go, and usually there would be a celebrity. I saw Peyton Manning in there with Brandon Stokely and Terrence Wilkins, and who else was he with? Ben Utek.
Yeah.
And then I saw the governor there, Governor Daniels, once. It seemed like every time I was there was somebody, either a mega celebrity or a, local celebrity.
Yeah. So, well, we are in the Midwest and see.
Hard to come by. Yeah. They had a table I could see was sort of blocked off, and it had this like tower of shrimp and crab legs and everything. And, Peyton walked in, and you just feel it in the room.
Right.
He's gigantic, and Utek was even bigger. And, the waiter told me that was a Friday before home game. That's where he took his guys. So those were, three. Utek, I think, was a tight end. I mean, people that catch the ball.
Right.
So
are you a Colts fan?
I am. And I try to not be, but they keep sucking me back in. I had season tickets for 10 years. When Peyton first got here, I was public defender. I had no business with season tickets.
Right.
But, again, from Alabama. And that to me was, I just knew there was something when we got Peyton Manning, being an SEC follower. And, I was right. And, when Peyton left, it sort of took, I realized I wasn't as big a Colts fan as maybe I was a Tony Dungy fan, a Peyton fan, an Edgerrin fan, a Marvin fan, a Reggie, big time Reggie fan. But I love the Colts, and I do find myself saying, "You're not going to watch the game. You're not going," and I end up watching.
You end up watching.
Yeah, and I think this coach we have right now is excellent. What he's doing with so many injured players is amazing. Right. So I think we're on the right path.
Yeah.
And Anthony Richardson impressed me.
Yeah.
I hope he can stay healthy.
Exactly. You're a Braves fan too.
Braves fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that just a byproduct of being close to?
Yeah, Alabama doesn't have professional teams, which is why college football is so big. And if we want to see a baseball game, we drove. It's like Cincinnati, a little less than 2 hours. Drove to Atlanta, in the 80s. So I've been to 3 Braves things. Speaking of getting old, I've been to the Fulton County Stadium, been to the TED, and now I've been to the Battery, Truist Park. Today, a friend of mine in the office, Mike Limerick, gave me. For all you people shopping for baseball fans out there, he gave me this little jar of dirt from the Braves World Series Game 4 in 2021, which of course is a series they won, and they won that game, won the clincher. But I thought that was a pretty neat gift.
Yeah.
So I put that up next to my Chipper Jones bobblehead that he bought me, and my Dale Murphy bobblehead as well.
That's great. So what is next for James Bell?
Well, I got a lot of work to do this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
And I'm hoping, and then I have a hearing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because everybody likes to go to Vigo County 4 days before Christmas for a hearing.
Oh.
And then I pick up my parents at 3:49 at the airport. And then my brother comes in and we'll do something for my 50th. I'm not privy to what that is. And then we'll do Christmas.
Good for you.
And then we'll start the grind again, and I'll lose more hair over the next year, and it'll go a little grayer, and my back will hurt a little bit more, and then we'll do it all over again.
Right. And I'll be right there with you.
You'll be right there.
Yeah.
When are you going to Redneck Riviera again?
27.
Oh, okay.
We're driving down.
I was there last January for New Year's, and it was warm weather. It wasn't sunny, but it was warm and good enough.
That's what I want. Good enough and better than this, right?
It's hard to beat, wind chill of -20.
Yeah.
But, and warm and rainy. I see in the forecast we're going to get warm and rainy because we all dream of a warm and rainy Christmas.
Right. It reminds me of growing up in Florida. We never had a white Christmas down there.
Well, so in Birmingham, which isn't nearly as south as you were, I mean, if I got a bike for Christmas, I rode the bike that day. I didn't think, and you got a tennis racket or something. You went and played tennis. And,
that day.
Yeah, it was warm enough down there. It's it's what every time our legislature does something crazy, I'm like, well, I should have just stayed where there was good weather.
Right. At least you get to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Hey,
I appreciate
I enjoyed it. I enjoy being the center of attention.
Right. We're trial lawyers. Right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I sort of alluded to this, but there's a pressure that I don't necessarily enjoy. I think some lawyers do enjoy the pressure. I always feel pressure when I'm speaking for someone else.
Right.
If the worst thing that can happen is I'm going to get embarrassed, that's fine.
That's all right.
It's happened before.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for listening to Circle City Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future conversations.
And give 5 stars.
And 5 stars.
I heard
6 stars.
6 stars if you can.
If possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.